Now moving into the midfield third for Real Madrid in possession, we would still go with the base shape of a 4-3-3 as we see here, with a very fluid midfield. And then for Liverpool, also countering the 4-3-3 of Real Madrid with their own 4-3-3. We'll look at a few instances on how Real Madrid were able to progress the ball and how Liverpool were able to stop them. So as we look at it, we'll see some similar movements as we just saw, with Toni Kroos dropping deeper in front of the Liverpool block, oftentimes drawing out Jordan Henderson, creating space in behind and between the lines for Benzema to drop into because of the jumping of Henderson to Toni Kroos. Then with the dual width used on the left-hand side between Mendy and Vinicius Jr., this gave a lot of room for Benzema to either drop between the lines in the half space or even into a wider position, taking up opportunities to progress the ball around the Liverpool narrow block. And then on this right-hand side, we'll also look at the asymmetry from Real Madrid, overloading the space between the lines with Modric and Valverde, using single width on the right-hand side with Carvajal as a fullback. And note, both fullbacks are taking up a wide position, which could have been an area that Liverpool could have exploited a bit better in transition if they were able to win the ball in the midfield third, exploit the space between the back four and the space they left. But as we look, when Liverpool go with a man-oriented approach, they'd have Henderson jump higher, as we just saw, and when they were more spatially oriented, after the first part, probably the first 15 minutes or so of the match, they became more spatially oriented, dropped off a little bit out of their 3/4 press and into their mid-block, and we would see a lot more fluidity from Real Madrid, with Modric then coming deeper alongside Toni Kroos, Casemiro going higher just like he did in the build-up third, and vacating the space between the lines higher up the field. Valverde would maintain his inverted position, with Carvajal maintaining full width. Then on the left-hand side, we'd see Vinicius and Mendy maintain their dual width approach and often use this position to try and stretch Liverpool into wider areas. But then from here, whereas on the right-hand side, we have more of a numerical overload and a base position of Valverde between the lines, we'd have more movement from Mendy and making underlapping runs through the half space and trying to access the space dynamically because of Henderson jumping, especially when Toni Kroos would get on the ball on the left-hand side or in and around the left half space in front of the Liverpool block. So as we move forward and look at more movements, we'll look at one of the most drastic movements that Real Madrid consistently use and did so in this match. This is when both of the eights, Modric and Toni Kroos, would drop alongside the central defenders, either alongside or between. Usually Toni Kroos would drop outside the central defenders along with Modric, but it has been seen where Toni Kroos drops between the central defenders. But either way, the shape maintains the same. So both eights drop outside of their central defenders, allowing their fullbacks and wingers to get higher up the field and vacating the space between the lines almost completely. Now Casemiro maintains his central position, and what this does for Real Madrid is it allows their players to then occupy this space between the lines in a more dynamic fashion, using their qualitative superiority against many teams. So as we see, Valverde and Benzema can often drop into these positions and occupy space between the lines. We can also see from their midfielders dropping, we can also see them jumping into this space, combining with their teammates playing the ball forward, and then simply making underlapping runs after the ball has been played forward to access this space dynamically. Then we can see on the right-hand side, when Modric would drop, he would then pull players to go and press him, especially players like Diaz and Thiago. Their partnership on this left-hand side, they can often create rondo structures, four-man diamonds against these players to try and progress and use the space with their individual movements.